Welcome to the Fight of the Next podcast. I'm Holly on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny, and in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, we have Erin. 2 games to chat about today, both here over in New South Wales ACT, so attended by the Little Corner of Yellow and also the Fever Tour. We'll have Ethan on next week to really talk about the Fever Tour, but it was absolutely fantastic and 2-0 wins. Very, very good. But we'll start with the women. That was Saturday, away to Canberra at McCullough Park. The player of the match was Ali Walker, to be honest. Pia Vlock and Michaela Woods were also very much in the running for that, but Ali really put up a lot of very important tackles and blocks, so in the end that went to her. This one, obviously there's 2 goals, but there's another big, I don't think it's a talking point, but another big event in the game. I mean, in the 6th minute you have Bertolissimo, who just shoulder charges and drops Michaela Woods. My sense is that Canberra probably decided that because Woods is so strong that they were just going to foul her instead of actually trying to tackle her. The thing is that Bertolissimo decided to do it a second time, even though she was already on a yellow card. Another clear yellow card. She is sent off in stoppage time in the first half. We went a long time with 11. A long time, and we just sort of thought, are we actually going to score? Are we going to score? Because our away record is so poor. 86th minute, though, Brooke Nunn plays in a cross. It's deflected, and it bounces in front of Sally James, who I really feel like should have come for it. But she stood there and waited for it to come to her, and Zoe Benson just nips in front of her and tucks it away. We went wild in the away crowd. So that was the 86th minute. Canberra's still at it, right? They were at it all game, and it got to the point where it was stoppage time, and they committed to send the keeper up. Now Sally James comes up and stays up for some reason. Instead of the play was sort of dead from the corner, and most goalies would just retreat immediately back to where their regular spot would be. She just stays up there. She receives the ball and does maybe the worst backheel pass attempt I've seen. This is the thing is, like, keepers, they're not outfield players. They're not going to be as good at that. Turns the ball over, and we wind up down the other end of the pitch, Pia Vlock with a very tidy long-range finish. That Sally James might have had a better chance with had she actually gotten all the way back and set herself. It was a very good shot. There's a good chance that she wouldn't have saved it, but honestly, the fact that she had remained up there is, I think, a little bit baffling. But that might not have been her decision. The coach could have told her just to stay up there. Either way, 2 shots on target, 2 goals. It was crazy. It was amazing. And at the end of the game, the players came to celebrate with us, and we got Bev on the drum. It was brilliant. Danny, you were also there.
I was, and I'm really glad I was as well. Really good victory, really good result. The performance was pretty good. I have to say, I think last week I said I didn't really rate Canberra. Well, I've completely changed my opinion now. I thought they were an excellent team. They were really, really good. And this is the 2nd week in a row we've played a team that is basically better than us. And this time we managed to come out with a result. But Canberra were really good. They were fast. They worked really hard. They gave us no time on the ball whatsoever. And they played really quick one-touch football. They got up the other end of the pitch really quickly. Something which I think we're really missing out on for us. We hang around on the ball a bit too much. We can talk about that. So Canberra were a really good side. And even with 10 players, you couldn't tell on the pitch. You couldn't tell which team had 10 and which had 11. They were still up there pressing us and putting it in there. So for us to keep going and finally find a way through, I was quite impressed. And it was a good performance by us. As I say, I think Canberra probably, they are the better side. With 10 against 11, it was more even, but a lot of players played very well, worked hard. I think the reason that I don't think they set out to foul Woods, just the fact that she went past them a couple of times. She put the ball past them and she had them beat. So she had no choice but to foul her, basically, because otherwise Michaela Woods is away in goal. And the amount of work that she puts in is so impressive. She just runs and runs and runs and runs hard, makes all the runs for the ball, after the ball, and she did really well. very impressive. Yeah, as I say, she would have been sort of tied for player of the match with Ellie Woods as well. I think what I liked about it is that we found a way to win. We didn't look like we were going to. We didn't look like we were probably going to score because Canberra were doing very well. Their tackling was very much swarm tackling. There were 2 to 3 people. Every time we got the ball, there were 2 to 3 people on there, and we weren't able to get that ball away quickly enough. And again, that might come back and bite us. I think that's something we probably have to work on, keeping hold of the ball a bit too long. And we weren't really, in the second half, we weren't really taking advantage of having that player, the extra player. And Canberra probably looked like the more likely to score. But Bev switched it up, brought the subs on, and they had an effect. Elliot and Vlock coming on had a real effect. Vlock, we know, is excellent. Elliot, despite getting booked in about 20 seconds of coming on, because we know that's what she does. She fights, and she fights hard. She put energy in there. And eventually, he came through. No one would have expected through Benson. And yes, the keeper probably should have caught it, but it was good work from Nunn going down there, getting the cross in. Nunn, I thought, had probably a fairly quiet first half by her standards. Again, every time she got the ball, there were 2 or 3 players on her. But, she kept persisting and finally got to the byline in the second half a few times, got that cross in, and Benson, real good poacher's finish. I don't know much about her. I don't know if that's a normal position, but really good sort of fox in the box poacher, just jumping on there. So excellent. And then at the end, just chaos. You love to see it. It's so great, the football fantasy. That keeper goes up, stays up. She stayed up because the ball was coming back in, and it was just chaotic. No one knows what was happening. And we got down the other end. Well, not even down the other end. Keeper was back, actually. She was back, and she was set. We should have got it in the net before then, but as I said, we're not very good at releasing the ball, I don't think. But Vlock didn't care. She just hit it from 25 yards and put it over the keeper's head. What a finish from a 17-year-old. Very impressive. So I was impressed by the fact that we kept working against a very good side. We found a way to win, and then we found a way to get a second goal. And being there, having not as many fans as them, but certainly we were louder than all their fans on a very unseasonably cold summer's day in Canberra. Yeah, really good away day. Loved it.
Yeah, those 2 tackles kind of reminded me of a Sheridan Gallagher kind of player. Absolutely flipped her, and I think it was, without that red card, I don't think we would have won that game. Definitely probably wouldn't have drawn that game either. I think that we looked a bit disjointed still in maybe that first half. I don't think we've played our best football the last couple of games. Could be because CJ Bott's out, I think, and that's still a factor in that. But yeah, we have looked a bit off the mark. And so to kind of get a win from this game away is a huge testament to the team, especially the substitutes coming on. I think in the last couple of seasons, we'd get to that point of the game, we'd bring on our subs and we'd kind of be like, oh no, this is, no chance. But seeing this kind of quality coming off the bench and making an impact like that is really positive for us. And it kind of gives me good hope going forward that we can compete against a team strong like Canberra, second place, doing the basics right. I think they're coached well. They're very strong all over the park. And yeah, I think a good result from there and a good bounce back from the loss last week as well.
Yeah, I agree with those assessments. Canberra were definitely very good and they will continue to be very good. Obviously, they will be out without Bertolissimo next week with that send-off. I feel like I don't know whether we would have necessarily lost if they had had the extra player. They had some chances, but they weren't that good. I think I wrote down Heyman had a really good header in the 19th. But even in the first half, I don't think that they were super dangerous. I think that we were holding our own. I don't know whether you agree on that. I mean, it can go either way, obviously. It's football, but I genuinely think that we had a good chance of that even without being a player up. It still took us way too long to score a goal. That's probably the bigger problem. But I don't know. Danny, what do you think about that?
I think they were the better side, and with 11 players, they would have been favourites. I think to win doesn't mean they would have done. And I take your point in the first half, although they were good. They didn't have that many clear chances. Heyman had that one header that she put wide. They weren't dominating as such, but they were first to the ball most of the time. They weren't giving as much time to be that. We're still missing our midfield. We haven't solved that problem yet. That defensive midfielder that we had, and the two that we obviously signed, Midak and obviously CJ Bott, neither of them are playing. And we don't think I've got anyone to step in there. So Pannenberg, I tried hard and did some nice things here and there, but I feel she's just a little bit lightweight for that role of defensive midfielder. Yale is again more forward looking, going, pushing up, as is Vlok as well. So we just haven't got that person to sort of just sit in front of the defence, soak up the pressure, make the tackles when needed to, and just lay that little balls off. And Canberra, being really quick movers, were able to take advantage of that. So they would swarm tackle, get the ball that comes out, the second ball, and then before you know it, they're up against our defence. And we never even mentioned that Mac Barry went off at half-time injured as well. So that's going to affect our defence in the second half. I mean, we did okay, but we had to rearrange that as well. So that would have had definitely an effect on it there. So, yeah, still haven't fixed that midfield problem. And against weaker teams, we can probably get away with that because, Charlie and Pannenberg and Vlok are, good players. But if we've got a good team that can really move the ball around the pitch, which Canberra were able to do, and Melbourne City last week, they're going to be able to pass round us or pass through us. So we need to find a solution to that. I don't know what that is. I don't know who we've got in the squad that can play it, but in Bev we trust. I'm sure she'll find a way. But I think what was noticeable was how quickly Canberra moved the ball and how quickly they released it. And I think we've got a few players that probably are guilty, and that's a very loaded term, but aren't too good at that. And I'm probably looking at Mania Elliott, who's great. She wins the ball, she's strong, and she goes forward, but maybe holds on to it for a little bit too long. And Vlok's probably the same as well. And these are young players, and they will probably learn. And with Vlok, you've gone past two players. What the hell? Go past two more. Why not? If you've got that ability, it's really tempting to do it. But there's probably times when she could have laid it off quicker to get it right up there to Woods or to Nunn or whoever's up there to have a chance on goal and have a clearer shot rather than going, okay, past two players, half through the third one, and then, the shot then is a bit weak because he's not coming from a strong position. So there's improvements we can make, absolutely. Would we have won against 11? It would have been a lot tougher. We may have done. I'm not sure.
I think as well, we also got two pretty early yellow cards. I think Grace Jale was on a yellow and Lucia Leon were on a yellow. With that impact in the middle there, Lucia Leon at one point almost shirt pulled a Canberra player who was away. She would have got her second yellow and been sent off as well. She just managed to let go on time to avoid that. But with those yellow cards, we have two players who you'd say are probably the ones in the midfield who are going to be trying to win that ball and trying to fill in that CJ Bott kind of defensive effort. And if they're both on yellow cards early in the game, you're probably not going to get that hustle that you would get from those two if they weren't trying to not get that second yellow. So I think that probably impacted the game as well. So if we had Canberra with 11 players and then our team with two yellow cards in the midfield, we could have easily been down to 10 as well. There was a tackle Jale did later on where the commentator said, that's surely a yellow card. And I was like, I'm pretty sure she's already on a yellow card. I hope not. So that's probably had a big impact on the intensity that we could play in the game as well. And with Canberra moving the ball fast, they could have, taken a winner in the 80th minute as well if they still had 11.
Let's mention the upcoming game. That is back at home. That is against Adelaide. We have not played Adelaide yet this season. They are ninth, but they just beat Melbourne Victory with a couple of tidy goals. It is Porirua Park this Sunday, January 25th at 4 p.m. local time. Adelaide will be an interesting test because we haven't played them yet. They're pretty low on the table, but they're also capable. They've got some very good players. I would like to think that we can get a win. We'll be at home, Porirua Park, the Fortress. Any thoughts on that one?
I think you've got to back us to win. The table positions aren't too important at the moment. If we win this, we go second. At the moment we're seventh, we win this, we're second. It shows you how sort of close it is and how people can move up. I think we'll be taking a lot of confidence out of that victory, and I think we'll learn quite a lot. This is Michaela Wood. She's only played a game and a half, so the more she plays, the better the combination is going to happen in that second, the upper third. And I can see her and Nunn play very well together, because Michaela Woods can get there and Nunn is really good at getting inspired and getting the ball in. So they're good. Again, the midfield, we'll see how that goes, whether Vlock will start or whether Bev will use her as sort of an impact sub like she did this time. It's a nice dilemma to have, I guess, having her either having a starting or coming on, because we know they can do that. Replacing Mac Barry in defence, we'll see if she plays or not. It seemed like an ankle injury. It can be a bit tricky sometimes, so whether she will play or not, I don't know. But you got to back us to win. I think we will. I'd like to see it be again more clinical. I'd like to see it take more shots, and just be a bit quicker in that final third. Not trying to, I want to say walk it in, but if you see a goal, have a go at it. We've got the players who can shoot from distance and they can score.
I back us to win this as well. I think we have still the best defensive record in the league, the fewest goals conceded, and we have almost the most goals scored as well. I think the Jets are just ahead of us because they have Charlotte Lancaster smacking them in from halfway. But, we can score goals and we can stop other teams scoring goals. So, who's to say that we can't beat every single team that we play from now on? We've already played City twice. So we don't have to see them again in the regular season. So who's to say we can't beat every single one we come against? Adelaide, we should be able to get 3 points from this, I think, if we just, play as we have been with our strong defensive game. Don't let them break through. Don't let them have those shots. And I think that we should be good to pile the pressure on and get the goals we need and come away with the win at home.
Fantastic. Well, if you can make it to Porirua Park, show up, make some noise. It's always appreciated by the team. Let's move on to the men's game, which was also a great result. So a lot of the tour boys and girls caught the main train from Canberra to Sydney. And, we made Allianz Stadium very yellow. I felt like Sydney was going to be a bigger ask than Canberra for the women. But you know what? I think we did really well again. Sydney dominated a lot of the stats. Possessions 67 to 33, passes 587 to 240. And I think a lot of Sydney fans felt like they should have got in and won that. We get a goal in the 29th minute, right in front of the away bay. Carlo with a free kick. It does take a pretty big deflection, and Timu Redmayne, otherwise known as Sevenish Bears, otherwise known as Devonish Mares, there's nothing he can do about that. He's out of position because it's taken a big deflection. 42nd minute. I don't know how this happened that we had these 2 games in a row and 2 red cards for opposition players at the end of the first half. Rami's got the ball and is heading up the line, and Yuli has no chance of getting the ball. They sort of had a rush of blood to the head and has done something rather silly, which was lunge in and studs onto Rami's ankle. It looked nasty. It was very clearly going to be a red, as much as I don't think it was intentional. He's copped a 3-match ban for that. Yet Sydney FC were down to 10 for the second half. 63rd minute, Isaac Hughes with a goal. Bloody brilliant. I like this one because it comes from, there's a free kick and it's come across the other side and Rufer picks it up in the box and everybody in the away bay is screaming shoot, but he doesn't. He has enough time to actually look, and then he takes a touch towards the line, plays a really beautiful pinpoint dinked cross into Isaac Hughes' head. And if Isaac had missed it, Corbin Piper was right behind him. It was a really tidy goal. Danny, I'll start with you again because you were also there.
I was, and for the record, I wasn't one of the ones shouting for Rufer to shoot, because I never shout for Rufer to shoot, because I just find it's a bad idea. He did very well for that. It was an excellent drop at the shoulder and a drop across. Again, look, 2 goals, 2 games, 2 good. Really impressive victory against probably the best side. Well, the most consistent side in the league. It's hard to say they're the best side because I don't think there are any good sides in this league at the moment. It's just they're more consistent than anyone else. I have a lot of friends who are Sydney FC fans, and they think they're shite. They are not impressed with their team. They're not impressed with their manager, and they're flabbergasted that had they won yesterday, they would have been top of the table with a game in hand. They can't believe why they're up there, and it really speaks more to the quality of the league this season than anything else. It also means that anyone can do anything, and we showed that. On paper we should have lost that, and we didn't. We won 2-0 and quite handily. Obviously, playing against 10 men, that's our superpower. That also helps us win, and perhaps we should try and do it every week. But even before that, it was reasonably even. They were dominating a little bit. They had a lot of the possession, but if you look at the actual chances, they didn't have that many really clear-cut chances in the first half. We were more than holding our own. We were being a bit more defensive. You can see Tim Payne wasn't going up that much. We were certainly holding back because we were expecting them to come at us, which they did, but we were holding them off fairly well. James had a great game. Thought he was really solid. And then we scored the goal. Armiento's left foot is just such a weapon. And I think we can use it even more. We should just be giving it to him anywhere within sort of 25 yards. If he's got his left foot, just get him to shoot because he's constantly on target and at pace. And this was a free kick which deflected. It probably wouldn't have gone in otherwise, but it goes in there. It was interesting, and I think a big talking point, the free kick there. A lot of Sydney fans and Ufuk Talay as well didn't think it should have been a free kick to us. It should have been a free kick to them. And to be fair, there was a bit of a melee beforehand, and there could have been 3 or 4 yellow cards because everyone seemed to be playing on the floor. It's the first game on the new pitch that they've relayed since the drainage issues, or in fact, more than relayed, completely rebuilt. And there was a record amount of rain in Sydney the day before, and before the match, they decided to water it for about 20 minutes. So people just could not stay on their feet. Devonish Smith fell over every single time he took a dead ball, which was much to the amusement of the away fans, until McCarron came down this end and he did exactly the same thing, fell on his arse every single time. No one could stay standing up. Everyone was falling over, and that led to dubious tackles because none of these players take a step back, and then eventually I think led to the red card because I think Najarine had slid into Eunice earlier, and this was a bit of a revenge tackle and he got him sent off. So probably could have been the other way. Rufa and Eze, I think, probably could have had yellow cards before they did. So that was possibly the ground staff at Sydney FC stuffing up, and also the referee wasn't controlling it that good. But we got the decision, and then we came back and we got the second goal, and then basically once we got the second goal, we pretty much chilled out, sat back, took everything off, put Retri on, and just eventually just packed the midfield. And although they had a lot of the ball, they'd never had any real chances. McCarron made a couple of good saves. Did all he needed to do, a couple of brave ones, and he's easily showing more confidence than he did before. You can see it in him. He's just more confident when he's coming for the ball, coming out for it, and that's good. And it was just a really good performance all round. One, to get the goal initially, get the second goal, and then just controlling the game, stopping Sydney scoring and going out there. So winning at Sydney is always sweet. It doesn't happen that often. For them to be their first game back at their stadium and losing, I really enjoyed this. One I'll remember for quite a while.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that there was a red card. I think the referee was letting a lot of the game just flow on. There were just kind of cynical fouls happening left and right. Players were just tripped up, and he just let it continue. And I think it kind of got to the point where people were like, I could do almost anything and still kind of get away with it. That combined with the wet pitch, and it was always going to end in a red card for someone. And so Sydney was on the receiving end of that, which was good for us. And I think that, this team has kind of really turned themselves around since that victory game, and just, come out to try to prove all of those haters wrong. Some really good, solid performances, and just a little bit more fight and heart from this team. And I think as well, it's looking a lot more organised. I think we probably doubted the new system at the start of the season because we were just conceding so many goals. But, now we've kind of put in another clean sheet. I think our second for the season. McCarron has just stepped up a lot from that first game as well. I think he did one weird little header outside the box, which was kind of flashbacks to Joshy. But the rest, he's been pretty solid for the rest of the time. And the defence has been organised. That Sydney did get a goal, but it was very clearly offside. Whereas I feel like in some of the previous weeks, there would be someone walking back from wherever they were, and that would have stood. And so it's looking a lot nicer. It's a lot more enjoyable to be a Phoenix fan at the moment. And, I'm super happy with how it's all going and how the system is kind of working. Our injury players are coming back from injury, and you can kind of see how the impact that they've had on the team as well. Tim Payne coming back, Milusic, someone can edit the correct pronunciation over that for me. Him coming back as well, just having those solid players on the bench that we don't have to rely on, or the academy players anymore, I think is just starting to pay dividends, and we're kind of really seeing a more solid and well-rounded Phoenix team now.
We did have an excellent bench. Usually it is filled with academy kids, but this time we had a really serious bench. There was a lot of experience. There was a lot of chanting for Billy T to come on as he was warming up on the sideline. We were chanting Bill, 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 and we were very stoked when he came on. This big character, he'll be a great addition. Even though he is getting a little bit older, I think he'll be great. All that experience that we could do with. I'll mention the next game. Next game is Newcastle. So Newcastle have been very good this season. They have won 5 of their last 6 matches, including wins against Auckland, Sydney, and City. They did beat us 3-1 last time. It is this Friday, 7:35 local time, 9:35 New Zealand time at McDonald Jones Stadium. Please do join us there. How are we feeling about the Jets, or any further comments about the game versus Sydney?
The game versus Sydney, again, is just one of these results. This league, you can't tell who's going to beat who. Anyone who were going into that, if they weren't Phoenix fans or City fans, would go, yeah, well, that's a Sydney home win. Easy peasy. You don't need to worry about it. And yet, we won. So predicting games is a fool's game at the moment in this league, because everyone beats everyone. And that makes for an entertaining league. It also suggests that the league isn't particularly good quality this year. But, what that means is everyone's got a chance of winning. I mean, if you look at Western Sydney Wanderers, who on paper probably have the best team, and they're rock bottom, looking terrible. And yet, if they win 3 games in a row, they're probably going to be up there in the top 4, So, in terms of the Phoenix, I think it's just as likely we finish in the top 4 as we finish at the bottom. I've genuinely no idea what's going to happen where we go. And that comes with this game against Newcastle as well. I don't know what's going to happen. Newcastle have lost more games than us this season, but they haven't drawn any. So they either win or they lose. It's feast or famine for those guys. And they scored some really good goals. They got Taylor Adams and Bayliss. They've got some really good young players who score from all over the place. So we could get quite easily beat here, but also we could probably win 2-0 again. It's such a toss-up. I would be really happy with a point, inflict the first draw on them. That might be nice. And if we play the way we've played, with the kind of fight and solidity that we've had, I don't see any reason why we can't. Sydney on paper are probably better than Newcastle, and we managed to hold them out. We can possibly with Newcastle as well. Everyone's got to be on their game. Everyone's got to midfield's got to be making those tackles every time, not giving them any space, even outside the box, so they can score from distance. If we can do that, then we can get a result, because we know we can score at the other end. We score quite a few goals. We're one of the highest scorers in the league. Eze will be up there, Piper will be up there, and Armiento, I'd rate him to score a goal most matches. So it can happen. Will it happen? Yeah, I don't know. Toss a coin.
The Jets came to New Zealand and got 3 wins, so let's just go to Newcastle and spoil their party over there. I think they're kind of, I don't want to say they're similar to us, but, they've conceded the most goals, but they've also scored the most goals. So they kind of just go a bit crazy, I think, in the games. That's such an entertaining team to watch, because they kind of, you just never know what's going to happen. A bit unpredictable. They've had some good wins, and they've had some horrific losses as well. So, yeah, it could be anything. Hopefully we get one of those games where they concede a lot and then we score a lot. But, it's the A-League, and so who knows what's actually going to happen. But I hope we can get a win from this game. They've tried to say it's, New Zealand is Newcastle, but now we can just go there and say that Newcastle's New Zealand and come back with the 3 points.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We will talk about the tour sometime soon. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody who came over. If you can attend the Jets match on Friday, please join us in the away bay and at Porirua Park. Show up and make some noise with the fever. Thanks everyone. Matua.